Robert, yeah, I sort of alluded to this earlier. Let's talk about Rachel Reeves. I covered this story last night. The business of her economy with the truth over her background, her career, is reaching something of a crisis point because more and more Westminster journalists, Westminster insiders are suggesting that by lying about her CV, lying about her qualifications, she has broken the ministerial code. Now, calls to number 10 today and yesterday were being answered. So people say, will the number 10, will the Prime Minister comment on the charge that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has broken the ministerial code by lying about her CV? The response was the Prime Minister is very happy with the work the Chancellor is doing on the economy. In other words, they didn't answer the question, so they're refusing to say whether or not she has broken the ministerial code, which is an indication that they fear she may well have done. Now, let's just recap her economy with the truth. She said that she was an economist at the Halifax Bank of Scotland. She was nothing of the sort. She worked in retail banking. I mean, not quite a cashier, but not much above that. Nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong, but she was not an economist there. She also claims to have been an economist at the Bank of England. She was an economist at the Bank of England, to be fair. She said, I was there for a decade. She wasn't. She was there for 6 years. Now, I suppose that these other claims are not as important. They're not quite professional, but it feeds into a growing picture that this woman is just a liar and has embellished her career to make her look more qualified to be Chancellor of the Exchequer. This is her claim that she was a junior chess champion. Right. In the under-12s British Junior Chess Championship, she came 19th. The following year, in the under-13s, she came 29th. And in the under-14s, the year after that, she was 26th. Chess champion? I don't think so. Now, a growing crescendo of calls, you know, to look into this, to say, look, you're the Chancellor of the Exchequer. You can't tell these kind of lies. If you did, you've broken the ministerial code, which will be a problem. I mean, you know, it all seems very petty, but this is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I don't think that Rachel understood what it means to be in the spotlight like she is now. All of these people, her, Starmer, you know, they spent 14, 15 years in opposition. No one cares about the opposition. But they do look at the Prime Minister and they do look at the Chancellor. I don't think she's understood that you have to be truthful, and she clearly hasn't been. This is a problem, isn't it?
It's a very big problem when Downing Street starts dodging the question, because when that starts happening, you know they've got something to hide. That's the reason politicians dodge questions. They've got something to hide. And it's as clear as day they do here. And what is particularly damaging here for Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer is they made integrity such a big platform in their general election campaign, and they made the supposed lack of integrity, particularly of the Boris Johnson government, as a reason why these evil Tories had to go. And yet now they're being found out. And this is the danger. I think it's a big danger of pretending that you have more integrity than your opponents, because all of us, Kevin, are sinners. All of us have done something wrong. All of us will be found out in the end. And let me just quote to you what Rachel Reeves herself said in a tweet in April 2022 about the Conservative government at the time. This is when Boris was in massive crisis. She said, honesty and integrity matter in our politics. Today, the Conservatives failed to stand up for either. Britain deserves better. And I've got an almost identical quote. There could be hundreds of identical quotes from Keir Starmer about the same period. If you are going to say about your opponents they lack integrity, you better be whiter than whiter yourself, Rachel Reeves. And it seems to me she's being found out.
She really has, and they're going to have to confront it somehow, particularly as she always emerges as the architect of these policies that are plunging Labour into a massive crisis. I mean, you know, throughout the Tory regime, the oftentimes extremely unpopular Tory regime for 14 years, we never saw anything like today. We never saw anything about the explosion of rage about the winter fuel allowance. I mean, these, as I come back to what we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, Robert, I mean, if nothing else, this is terrible politics. You know, they seem to be going out of their way to sort of alienate every section of society. What is wrong with them?
Your guess is as good as mine. It's been a terrible start to this Labour government. I mean, it could hardly have been worse. Everyone remembers Liz Truss. Well, she was out within 44 days, but we've got this lot for another 4.5 years. Never has a government, with the exception of Truss, come into power, particularly after a changeover from Tories to Labour or Labour to Tories, and performed so horrendously that they've lost all that goodwill in the space of just 4 or 5 months. It's incredible.
Yeah, and already may well have sealed their fate. There's this kind of theory that Keir and Rachel, you know, this relies on accepting that they're sort of clever operators. I'm not accepting that at all. But if they were, there's this theory that they will get all the really unpopular policies out in the first few months, and then the damage gets repaired through the years as they become wildly popular. However, I mean, I don't believe that for a start. I just think they're pretty incompetent. They weren't ready for government. They didn't realise what it entailed. They didn't realise that actually you have to keep the people with you to a certain extent. But whatever the cause of this is, I don't think there's any doubt that they have probably built the bedrock for their electoral failure at the next general election.
They may well have done. The big hope, it's not the only hope, because we know a week is a long time in politics, so 4 years is an eternity. But the big hope for Labour is that the right of British politics continues to be split down the middle between Reform and the Tories. It pretty much is now. It was in the last election. And if that carries on being the case, then there's a route already for Starmer to be re-elected in 4.5 years' time. So for those of us on the centre-right, we've got to pray for some kind of accommodation between the forces on the right. Yeah. Otherwise, we could have, well, as I say, another 4 years or even another decade of Starmer's Labour Party.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to the Tories today, the cabinet turned out in force, the shadow cabinet turned out in force at the farmers' protest. But I knew a few friends who were there. Russell Quirk, a fellow presenter here, he was there. And he said that she made a speech, Kemi Badenoch, but he said it wasn't very impressive. It didn't go down very well. So she's got an uphill mountain to climb, I think. You know, if it was Margaret Thatcher, she'd have been on a tractor today. You know, they don't seize their opportunities, these people, sometimes. Kemi Badenoch on a tractor, front page. You know what I mean? I'm here to help, Kemi. You know, for a minor amount of money, I'll be your PR. How's that?
I'm a big Kemi Badenoch fan. I think she's the right woman, and I think she's going to do a great job. But today, she was completely overshadowed by Jeremy Clarkson.
She was, yeah.
You'd expect that. Yeah. Jeremy Clarkson just stole the show in a half-minute clip with Victoria Derbyshire. That's what we're all seeing. That's what's on the headlines. And I'm afraid if you're up against Clarkson, even a good operator like Badenoch, who I admire and I wish all the best for, she's going to struggle.
Yeah, I guess so. Early days.